There's a lot of push towards Rob Sand. And look, him compared to Kim Reynolds, despite the things that I really disagree with him on, 100% better of a governor. I cannot, and we'll kind of get into this in the clip, but like, I cannot imagine him being as corrupt as that bitch is. I just can't. I can't imagine it. I could be disappointed. It's very possible, but I have a hard time believing that is possible with someone like Rob Sand. Now, so I mean that's like, look, I think overall he's a likable guy. I really don't like his Democratic policies. I really think some of the stuff he wants to do with like education and Medicare are a little draconian and would probably tank the Iowa economy. But despite that, like, I think him as a person, he's a nice enough guy. However, he put out this ad that was like very simplistic, to say the least. And let's just go over it. Let's just watch this. Let's just watch this shit.
Call me old-fashioned. I'd say stealing's bad. That's why I locked up corrupt public officials as a prosecutor. And as state auditor, I uncovered record amounts of misspent tax dollars. Insiders didn't like that, so they changed the law to make it harder for me to find your misspent tax money. That's bad too. As governor, I'll make jail time mandatory for public officials who misuse your tax dollars. Because stealing is still bad, and stealing from taxpayers should be unacceptable. Call me old-fashioned.
Now this is interesting. This is interesting. Stealing from the taxpayers is wrong. That's a very libertarian message. Odd. Look, I will say this about Rob Sand. I think what he did in terms of the misspending of government funds with the whole lottery thing was very good. He had a documentary about it. I haven't watched it, but that's a good thing. Like if you're gonna look at government officials, that's what they should do, right? Like that should be the minimum requirement. You know, if you're part of a group, the first thing you should do is make sure that group's in check, or else you're just a fucking hypocrite. Now there are a couple questions with this. How much of this will he actually be able to do? That's left to be seen. You know, he did do this thing as an auditor, so it's possible. I think he has more of a chance than Kim Reynolds, for sure. And there is an obvious problem with Kim Reynolds retroactively going like, hey, we're going to make it harder for this to happen, for these things to be audited. I think that's great that he wants to, that he did that, and that it seems like this is something he wants to do. However, from the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, free market capitalist perspective, it is very hard to ignore the fallacy that is jumping out, which is that he simplifies, and I shouldn't even say that he's doing it a disservice, but like I shouldn't even say that like simplifying it like this is bad, because it's true. Stealing is bad. I think the next logical thing to ask is, what is taxation? It's stealing. And his last bit where he said, you're stealing money from the taxpayers. Like, you're already stealing money from the taxpayers. So when you're going to frame things like this, saying stealing is bad, very libertarian message. Is he going to end taxation? No. In fact, he is more than likely going to increase it for things like Medicaid, for things like education, for government programs. He wants to put like, he was bitching about how Kim Reynolds put $1 million into cancer research and how it's a mouse fart, and how he wants to pump more into that. And then when he was asked like, what's your actual plan? He didn't really give an answer. Because he doesn't have an answer. Because this is the problem with these Democratic types, is like they just rely on the system. Like, they just rely on it to be like, yeah, stealing is bad, so we're going to keep stealing from you and make sure that it's not bad anymore. It's like, it's already bad. The whole thing's already bad, dude. Yeah, stealing is bad. And you're running for a position where you're going to continue to steal. I watched this and it just made me cringe. And look, like if here's actually, I was just going to look this up. Is there any development on the Ian Roberts fraud? Because he did say he was going to tackle this. He was gonna open up an investigation into the Des Moines public schools. He said this in, I think, October of last year. Now, I've tried to give him some grace period, but it's been 6 months, 7 months, 6-7 months, and I'm looking right now. There are no articles, nothing to suggest that he has moved an inch on this. A very serious issue that we covered on this podcast, where this man was not even legally registered to work in this country and was around children and was making twice as much as any superintendent in the area, almost $300,000. And he fled from the police. And he's not going to move on that. Look, if I'm going to believe that he's actually going to clean up the corruption, I really hope he does. I want to think that he will. He's got to say something about this. It's been over 6 months. I know government's the slowest moving body in the world. And maybe this would be something that, if he became governor, he could maybe push for that more. I highly doubt it. You know why? Because there is a Democratic bias in the Des Moines public school system. There are DI initiatives. There is a clear bias in that organization. And it would not serve him to properly audit that organization. I haven't done a lot of research. I would be curious to see if anybody's actually followed up with him on that. Because, he was very stronghold about even starting in the first place. He got a request and he said it wasn't written. He wasn't done correctly. I mean, fine, maybe that's true. And then after it was done correctly, he said, okay, we're going to do this. Okay, man, it's been 6-7 months. What's the news? What's the status on this? There's no way that this wouldn't have been covered if there were further developments in this fraud case. And if there aren't further developments after a 6-7 month period, maybe you should check in and say, hey, at least say we're working on it. That would be an article. The Des Moines Register would cover that. I think the most likely outcome is that he is going to do things for corruption, but he's going to do something in one particular direction. And he is going to steal your money to do it.